Hello, welcome to Family Art Night. I'm here with Professor Bill Catling. He's going to guide you through a painting. 2 points of business before we get going. If you have any questions, you can put those in the chat box. I'll be monitoring them, and then I will just shout them out to Bill. Feel free to ask anything about the art department, Bill's work as an artist. If you have actual questions about the painting that he's doing, you can put those there. One other item is if you could take an image of your painting at the end of this session and then send an email with that photo to alumni@apu.edu. We're going to collect all of those images and then put them in a recording and send it back to you so you can see everything. So I'm going to introduce Bill Catling. He's been a professor here at APU for 30 years. He's also a working artist. He has a wealth of knowledge on art and spirituality, and he's looking forward to painting with you.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad you're here. Some of you I may have had in classes. I don't get to see you, but I hear that some of you may have joined me in the past. I'm really excited to be here and to walk you through a very simple approach to painting that all of you will be successful at. Whether you're a young child or you're a parent, you're single, doesn't matter. All of you will have a successful painting tonight. A couple of things. If you don't have a palette, I brought my painting palette. You may want to grab a paper plate, something to mix the paint on, and you want to have a cup of water as well. So if you want to take a couple minutes to gather that, that would be fabulous. And then we're going to get started here on painting. I know I look like Bob Ross, but I'm not. But he is very fun. So if you've done that, this will sound a little bit similar to that. What we're going to do is we're going to do a low horizon line seascape. And you might want to start with a pencil or something and just establish a line that goes across your canvas. Doesn't matter if it's straight, just at the lower part. So if you want to grab a pencil or something to mark with and put that line there, we're going to get ready to go here. Now I'm using a simple color palette. You might want to see if you have a dark blue in your set of paints and put a bit of dark blue on there. I happen to have a lighter blue, which you may want to think about if you do. If you don't, it's okay. You can just mix some white in. So I'm going to put this medium blue in there. And then you're going to want some yellow and some red. You'll also want some orange. If you have orange tube of paint, put that there. If not, it's easy to make orange by mixing red and yellow together. You might remember, if you ever studied the color wheel, that blues and greens are considered cool colors, and reds and oranges and yellows are considered warm colors. So we're going to do a cool palette on the bottom and a warm palette on top. We're going to need white as well. So we probably use quite a bit of white in this. So if you have some white, squirt it out there. So very simple. It's just 5 colors, maybe 6, depending on what you have in your paint set. We're going to start at the top and we're going to work our way down across the canvas. So I'm going to take a little water, mix it with my blue. I don't want it to be quite this intense, so I'm just going to take the tiniest bit of yellow, add it in there, and what it does is it lessens the intensity of the blue. It dims it a little bit. We're going to start putting that up at the top. Don't worry, you can put it on kind of messy, it's okay. What we're doing is we're establishing the little bit of blue at the top of the sky, and then we're going to work it down into the sunset, and then with the water down below. see, I'm not worrying about being too careful. You can leave marks. You can just kind of scribble it across there. You can stop somewhere, maybe an inch or two down. Doesn't have to be exact. And actually, if you take a little water and you kind of thin it out so it gets lighter as you come down, that's kind of nice. And if my name was Bob and Ross, I would say, it's a happy sky. All right, I'm going to give you a minute to catch up while I prep for this next section. I'm going to wash that blue out. I'm going to give her a little white and just the tiniest bit of yellow. So it's very pale. I'm going to start bringing some yellow in here. Let it mix a little bit with that blue, and you'll get a little subtle green happening. You can kind of scrub the brush in there to get it to mix a little bit. So again, I'm using a little bit of white, a little bit of yellow, and we're starting to tone the sky at sunset. So you get a kind of a softening of the blue down into the yellow. Now we're going to increase the yellow, so it's a little bit brighter here, see? A little bit less white. If it feels like I'm going too fast, I'm sorry. I'll try to slow myself down so you can catch up. But I like when you add a richer yellow, I'll bring it back up into the softer to help blend it, so it softens it. A word for a gradation of color is ombre. It goes from a lighter tone to a darker tone. So we're creating an ombre sky here. We'll bring some of that yellow back up into here. Picks up a little bit of a green tone as they mix. If it doesn't look exactly like this, it's okay. Every painting is unique, every painting is different, and that's the great thing about art. See, unlike so many fields of study, there's a right answer. And in art, there's not a right answer. Each person discovers a new way of working, and it's okay. So I'm going a little bit stronger yellow now here. A little water in there so it spreads it out. Julie, is anyone concerned am I going too fast? Okay. Now we're going to take the tiniest bit of red. Red is such a strong color, it turns orange very, very quickly. We're just going to start a little bit of orange. So if you have a tube of orange, you can use that directly. If not, you can mix your red and your yellow to get that orange. I'm just going back and forth. I'm just working this very gently. I'm actually kind of scrubbing across. Don't worry if you grab it a little dark like that, because you just keep working it in and get this nice ombre blending as the yellow slowly turns to orange. I can bring it up a little bit. We're going to go a little bit darker here. There we go. Get this medium orange happening. Very pumpkin-like. I had so much fun last week with one of my classes online. We had a virtual pumpkin carving. So it was quite fun. You can see we're building this sunset profile as we work down slowly. We'll take a red, and we're going to bring that red right across this horizon line.
Hey, Bill, we have a question.
Yes.
How does the orange get that light?
How does the orange what?
How do you get the orange that light?
Mix a lot of yellow. So mixing a lot of yellow keeps the, I don't know if you can see that. It doesn't take very much red at all. The red's so strong, it jumps in there. So just put some yellow, in fact, just take some yellow right over the top with some water, and that should help lighten it up. Now this red's going to go right here along the horizon. Then we're going to take some of that orange and we're going to bring it into the red. Start blending it right there. See how that's starting to work. We're going to be going over this with some other things too. We'll add some clouds later. And this is kind of where you want to be now, with a little blue, touch of green, some yellows, into orange, into that red line. So I'll let you catch up. I'm going to clean my brush, and we're going to shift our palettes to blues. Now at the horizon there, we want the blue to be deep so it's further away, and then the blues will get lighter as it goes down because it's getting closer to you. So you're going to grab your dark blue, and I'm just going to put the tiniest bit of orange in there to help tone it a little bit. When you mix across the color wheel, a warm color into a cool color, it drops the intensity. And so the blue will get a little bit richer and not quite so bright and deeper. And I'm going to put a nice line of dark right here across that horizon. And don't worry if it smears a little bit. You might get a little purple at the edge, and that's fine. Remember, each one of these is going to be different. They're not going to look the same, and it's okay. So we got a blue line going across there. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add a little bit of lighter blue into it. You can also just add a little white, like just grab a little white, bring it in there, and that'll create that light blue as well. So we're going to do the ombre the opposite. Here was light to dark, and here's going to be dark to light as we come down. A little water helps blend it. Okay, you can see where that dark, where the red and the dark blue meet, is farther away. That's our hope, is it looks farther away. And then we're going to take a little more white. We're going to bring it in here, and we're almost matching the sky. So again, some of that light blue, a little bit of water helps smooth it out. I'm going to take a little bit of the medium. That medium blue. Start letting some lines happen through there. Maybe even go a little darker. By putting these lines across, you begin to pick up a little bit of the texture that the ocean's going to have. So you get a little bit of texture happening there. So the darker to lighter begins to move. Okay, we're going to clean that up so that'll dry a little bit. Oh yeah, it's already dry. Now I want you to play with some white. How fast am I going? Oh, we're doing all right. I'm going to grab some white here. You can't do this wrong, so don't worry. I'm just going to come across, just letting the brush just kind of form this little bit of a cirrus cloud coming in, a little bit of chunky. You just grab your white and just let it kind of droop a little bit. Don't be too careful. So it's a little heavier here and it thins out as it comes across. And then grab over here on this side. Maybe this one's a little bit bigger because it's closer to us. We're standing on the shore looking out. So you begin to see these cloud formations coming across. Let's do one more up here. Maybe one more here. Now what I want to do is come back to that sky now that it's started to dry a little bit and bring a little bit more blue into it. Adding a little white, making it a little bit heavier so it covers the texture of the canvas a little bit better. Again, don't worry about making perfect strokes. Let your brush move a little bit. That texture is important to the overall look. I'm not using as much water this time because I want it to be a little bit thicker. Julie, you want to shoot a question and see if everyone's doing all right?
Just did.
What's that?
I just sent.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So see how it kind of, the texture by just kind of dabbing the paint on gives it a little feeling of maybe there's some vapor up there or some clouds breaking up, and it doesn't have to be really smooth. Sometimes too smooth looks too much like paint and not enough like sky. So I'm just grabbing some of this light blue and white and just working my way down to that cloud. Again, your brush marks are your friend. Don't try to smooth them all out. So this way you get a nice textured, rich looking sky. I'm going to run a little bit of the blue down into here below this cloud. Clean off your brush. And we're going to go back and grab a little yellow.
Bill, we have a hello from mother and daughter Savannah and Summer Lawrence.
From who?
Summer and Savannah Lawrence.
Oh, tell them I said hi.
They're watching, so.
Yeah. Summer, I hope you find a job. I saw you're looking on LinkedIn. Oh, no, that's not right. That's the other Summer. Sorry. Sorry, Summer. I'm going to bring a little yellow in here. Again, up underneath that cloud. Again, letting the brush have some texture to it. Don't worry about it being all perfect and neat. By making these marks, it really does a nice job. I'm going to go back and grab a little blue. That got a little bit too green right there. Ooh, look how dark that is. That's kind of fun. Bring that in under this cloud.
Bill, we have another question.
Yes.
This is from Rachel Johnson. She says, you mentioned doing virtual pumpkin carving for class. What have some of your other virtual classes included during this semester?
This semester, we have done an entire semester of online ceramics, and students have made their own clay, Play-Doh, salt dough, discovered Fimo or oven-baked clays, air-dry clays. We've done some great projects. It's been very exciting. I was concerned. I didn't know if we could pull off ceramics online, and I checked with my class, and they all said they would take it again. It's worked really well, so that's been very exciting. And then I'm doing mentoring, meeting with students one-on-one. I'm also teaching incoming freshmen, trying to do what I call a little brain work so that their gray matter gets stirred up and they think deeply and more interestingly. So it's been a great semester so far. I'm actually really pleased with it. I'm going to bring some
We also
white.
have some requests for you to slow down a bit.
What's that?
We have a request for you to slow down a bit.
Okay, you're right. I'm going too fast.
But people are enjoying it.
I'm still playing with the sky. So I'll keep playing with the sky as people try to catch up. I'm going to come in and do a little more cloud work while I'm waiting and letting you play with your skies.
Bill, maybe you could share with us how you got into teaching art.
All right, that's a great question. From the time I was little, I knew I was going to be an artist. That's all I've ever known. And graduated with my bachelor's and found a job as a carpenter building houses, because with art, you don't always have an instant job track. So I was building houses, and the man I worked for, the one who owned the company, was a believer, and he went to a church where it was connected to a school and found out they needed an art teacher. So the woman who had been the art teacher was having a baby, and so I applied and then heard nothing. So kept building houses, asking God what he wanted me to do. And a year later, the woman decided she was ready to be done, and they called me back, and I started teaching high school. It was amazing, because I remember the interview like it was yesterday, and that was in 1979 when they interviewed me to teach high school. And they asked me, can you teach photography? So I said, sure. I didn't own a camera. I didn't know anything about it. So I went and took a summer class at the community college and taught photo for 20 years, just because God does those things, right? And I taught high school in San Francisco from 1980 to 1990, and then I had heard that Biola had a position, and so I called, hounded them, applied. They had one class for one semester, and I turned to my wife, Hillary, and she said, we got to go. So we packed it up, moved from San Francisco to Southern California, and I had one class for one semester, And I thought, what am I doing? Got down here, and someone from APU called down to Biola and said, hey, we're looking for a teacher. Do you have anyone? I came up, interviewed, and I've been here ever since. So it's been quite a wild, fun ride, I'll tell you.
We have another question. People would like to know what your favorite work of art is.
Oh my. Favorites are tough. I'll tell you that when I go to a museum, I look for the artwork that takes my breath away and makes me stop. And I always love it when they have a bench by those pieces of art so I can sit with it. A lot of the work of Anselm Kiefer I love. So many out there. Oh my gosh. One of my very favorite pieces, though, is a sculpture by, because I'm painting right now in front of you, my brain just went blank. George Siegel in San Francisco, he did a Holocaust memorial that I got to be there when he installed it and talk with him. And I go back and look at that every time I go back to San Francisco. Very moving, very powerful. It's a piece about the Holocaust, but it's filled with hope. And that's always been exciting to me. So while I've been talking, you see I'm just playing with my clouds and just dabbing in a little white, a little yellow, letting the brush get a little bit drier so that way it only leaves little brushy marks and it makes the clouds look a little fluffier, or at least I hope that's what it's doing. So I'm trying to get this kind of striation going where the clouds help level us down. Go back in, here's some yellow. Deepen some of this in here. Now I'm going to put a little bit of yellow and start letting the light show on the bottom of the clouds. Because the sun's setting and the colors are coming up and they're catching the clouds and the textures. So by adding a little bit of yellow there, it breaks it up a little bit and it helps the clouds look fluffier. I'll do the same thing down here. Actually, I had Summer Lawrence in class over 20 years ago. Right, Summer? That was really fun. And just a few years ago, I ran into her on campus and she said, guess what? You're going to have my daughter in your class. So it was so fun to have both of them, to share this experience with both of them is really magical and fun.
Bill, we have another question. Which artists or artistic styles have inspired you, and what would you say to an inspiring artist? What would you tell them to do? Okay.
What you're looking for is an artwork or artist that when you go up and see their work, you feel it inside you. And you feel that connection, that spiritual bond, that you feel like that artist connects with you so powerfully, and you want to make that kind of work. And when you have that experience, you study that artist. You find out why the work is like that. And you begin to learn how they made it, and you begin to do that yourself. So I discovered a few artists. Rodin, Giacometti, Alberto Giacometti, Stephen de Stabler, all figurative artists of the 20th century. And actually I was very inspired by Etruscan artists who pre-Rome would do these tall, thin figures, and they were called spirit drawings. They were often about grief for those that had passed. And in my own work, I try to blend grief and sorrow and hope together, so that elongation of the figure has always been very powerful for me. So I studied them. I had the opportunity to study directly under Stephen de Stabler in San Francisco. And in fact, because of the way I would just clean up the entire sculpture area and take care of everything, Stephen de Stabler hired me to be a studio assistant. So I worked with him for quite a few years in his studio and at his home. Is this looking all right? Okay, I'm so close to it. All right, so we got about the top half is looking pretty good, and this needs some work right in here. So we're going to go back to our orange. Again, a little red and a lot of yellow. And going back to the question, I think it's important when you find the artist that you really are moved by, that you study everything about them. And then you try to make work that's part of that. I call it your artist family tree. Who are you related to creatively? And you begin to study all those people and begin to think, I belong in this group of artists. I'm connected to this group. And it really helps you. See, I make the orange a little bit stronger now with not as much water, and it begins to create a little heavier look to it. But I'm still going to thin it out but a little bit here and bring some more yellow in so it creates that ombre. And a little streaking of yellow in there doesn't hurt at all. I'm going to scrunch it up around the clouds. Grab another brush and get some stronger yellow there. Again, if you notice, I'm not being really careful. I'm just plopping the yellow on over the orange to begin building some texture in the sky as well.
Bill, besides the work you do for your classes, how much art outside of APU do you work on? What and where are some pieces that we may find displayed of your work?
I right now exhibit at Melissa Morgan Fine Art out in Palm Desert, and I show at Gallery Mar in Carmel. And so they both have my work. They've been selling this summer and this fall. It's been very exciting for that to be happening. My studio is at home in Riverside. I try to be in the studio at least a part of every day, even when I'm really tired, to keep that going. So in the studio I'm drawing, I'm making sculptures. I currently have about 12 sculptures in process and a few drawings. And I find if I'm not in the studio, my teaching suffers because I teach out of my artistic practice. So when my artistic practice is alive and vital, my teaching's better because they work together. It's really a fun, a very privileged life, I have to tell you. I really love my life, and I can't wish for it to be any different. What's really fun is my wife Hillary's home doing this exact project. It was so fun, I left all the supplies for her, and she actually was a design major in college, but now functions as a marriage and family therapist. So I'm really excited that she's home doing this.
And Hillary just said that you can also, if you're local to Azusa, see his work at the San Maloof Gardens.
Yes, that's right. I have a sculpture right now at the Maloof Gardens in, where is it? Where's the Maloof? My brain's drawing
Laverne.
a blank.
Is it in Laverne?
No, one of the cities next to that. My brain's not working.
I'm going to do a quick Google search.
Rancho something.
In Rancho Cucamonga.
Rancho Cucamonga. That's where it is. Yeah, and I think they're still open in the gardens. That's where it is. Because you can see, I just brought some striations across to try to get light and dark, yellows and oranges, working down so that the red is kind of a popping right there at the bottom. So you see that far away, the sun has set, it's leaving this glow, and I would say it might be worth grabbing a little bit of red and making sure it's nice and dark right there at that edge. When I entered college, all I knew was I was going to be a painter, and I thought I might do pottery. That was kind of my idea. So at my undergrad, I did a degree in painting, but halfway through it, I fell in love with sculpture. So I did 2 majors. I did one in sculpture and one in painting. But I've always loved painting. There's something about moving paint to me is just very soothing. Because at one point I thought, why didn't I do clay with all of you? But I thought, no, this is more fun. Hopefully there's kids doing this as well. And if there's not, you can help your kids do it. So your sky is starting to feel chunky and soft and striped. And now we're going to go back to the water down here. And we're going to grab more of that dark. Again, just working in kind of long strokes. You're trying to build a little sense of texture in the water. Trying to get a feeling of swells as the water moves back. So I'm actually going to raise this up a little bit. There we go. You probably don't have an adjustable easel in your kitchen right now, but if you did, you could have just rose it with me. And now I'm going to switch over to this medium blue, which if you don't have, you can just add some white to your dark blue. And don't worry if there's not perfectly mixed on your brush. Leaving little chunks of white or darker blue is a nice little thing to happen. I'm not worried about making it all one color. I'm just going across, trying to get some texture going there. I'll bring some of this light blue and little small streaks up here in the darker. All right, go back, grab a little dark.
Bill, what advice do you have for aspiring artists?
For an aspiring artist? It's really important, if you're aspiring to be an artist, that you believe in yourself. And in order to believe in yourself, you have to think that God has called you to do this life. And we've got so many great examples in the Bible of God inspiring people to be creative. And if you can get a hold of that belief and know that God has put in you the heart of an artist, then you trust that. And you step into the artist's life and you do the work. And it is a lot of work. Hours of time in the studio, making work that often isn't very good, but that learning and growing and struggling is what it takes. And I would say find some other people that are like-minded. Get connected into a small community of artists, because we don't do well alone in the arts. We need a few people to support each other. Like I would recommend, even if your artist friends aren't local, especially now with COVID, create a monthly meeting where you meet online and you show the work that you've made that month. And you give each other feedback and encouragement and critique. And it's what builds this kind of community and life of the arts. We do it together. So I think know ahead of time it's going to be hard. It's really hard, but it's so satisfying. And when you make the work, you're making it as an act of prayer, as an act of worship. Every mark you make, God knows what it means. So every time I make work, I'm praying. The very act of making art is an act of prayer. I think it's leading what I call one life. So it's all connected together. So whether I'm with people, by myself, in the studio, wherever I am, I'm an artist serving God in whatever that looks like. And so I think that really helps if you can connect your life together instead of it being so separate. And you draw every day. Every day. Draw, paint, dance, whatever it takes. So it becomes a part of your discipline of your life. And I think what's exciting is when you do that, it becomes your devotional life. You put them together. So you don't have to have words to pray. So if I have this theory, you plug in once and you never unplug. You plug into God and you're done. You're there. You're in it. So you're praying 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And as an artist, it's particularly potent for me because I see the creative act as an act of prayer as well. So whenever I'm writing, drawing, sculpting, mowing the lawn, it doesn't really matter. I'm trying to be plugged in. Got me on a roll. Okay, I'm going to grab some white. Hopefully people are starting to catch up. And I'm going to bring some white in. Some random little lines. Trying to capture the idea of little white caps. Pretty random. Probably smaller in the back and maybe a little bit heavier in the front because you're closer. How long have I been silent? I just lost track. You get so involved with painting, sometimes words stop forming. Now, under each one of those white caps, you want to create a little shadow. So getting some of your darker blue, kind of creating a medium blue, you go back underneath, and you cast a little shadow under there. At least that's the theory. I don't know if I can't tell. Is it working? Okay, I see some heads nodding. That helps. So the ones that are farther back probably have a little darker shadow. A little water so it's smooth but not too runny. Again, you're looking to try to create texture and movement. I'm going to go back and grab some medium blue. Start laying in a little between the darkness of the shadow and the waves, creating a mid-tone. A little bit lighter as we get down to the bottom. And part of what I'm doing is I'm taking out some of the thin parts from the first layer where the canvas showed through. And that way the white textures from the wave tops will show up more. Now I'm doing like a little bit secondary medium blue shadow below the dark blue one to try to help lift those waves up a little bit. I'm going to make the white a little thicker in the middle and then trail it off a little bit on the sides to feel a little bit more like how a wave has a little curl. At least that's the theory.
Bill, how have you seen COVID impact the art community?
COVID has stopped exhibitions. I've had 3 shows canceled. Museums have been closed. Galleries have been closed. And what it's done, though, is it's brought an online presence of art greater than it's ever been. And so people are looking at art online. They're going to museums virtually. It's creating a more open access to art, which I think is very exciting. I miss seeing it firsthand. There's nothing like sitting in front of the piece of art. But it seems to be building this kind of online excitement that was there before, but not at the level it is now. It's so much stronger. But I think so many artists struggle with isolation and sometimes a bit of depression, that the lack of community is hurting people. They're struggling. They're trying to find their way through this time. It's very challenging. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been writing every day. And starting December 1st, I'll make this on my Facebook page and my Instagram. I'm going to make it available to people. I'm writing about all of the stuff that's going on and trying to find a way of living that incorporates both sadness and joy together. Because we can't seem to live without the sadness right now, especially. But how do we move forward? How do we find a way through this? And so I'm hopefully it will help people to read about ways of thinking that I've encountered as an artist that I don't think I would have discovered without being in the arts. A way of seeing, a way of thinking, a way of being. Anyone out here who took my art and faith class, it'll be kind of like art and faith on a daily basis. Thinking about how do we live this life? How do we encourage others? How are we supportive in difficult times?
If you'd like to connect with Bill, you can find him on social media at William Catling, and his website is williamcatling.com.
Do they look all like waves? Okay. I'm so close I can't see it. Well, this was the idea of just a few simple colors, a few simple marks. Yours are going to look different. I'm sure they're all wonderful. Please don't be critical of your own work. Try to enjoy it as an expression. Try to find a way to enjoy moving paint. It's not going to look like mine. It shouldn't look like mine. It should look like yours, which will be better because it'll be your marks and your painting. And there's something about moving paint, mixing color. Time disappears. It's a really magical thing to do. I don't know how we're doing on time. Any other questions? It's only 7 o'clock. We're doing good.
No other questions, but whenever you are finished with your painting, take a photo of it and send it to alumni@apu.edu by this Monday, November 2nd. And we'll collect all of those images and put them together and share it with you all.
Those of you that are racing along, I can start a second one real quick. Give you another option of how to do this. Scrunch along. Really make a fun kind of line with the dark. If I had black, I'd use black here, but I forgot to bring the rest of my paints. Then we're going to grab some yellow with some blue and make this kind of green. This will be more of a landscape. And what's great is you can move as fast as you want. And this is going to be a different kind of sky. It's going to be a lot of greens and whites and whatever else grabs your brush. So this is kind of a moody sky you're going to make. Again, look how fun I'm having with the brush. This is so fun to just race around, just let it go, have fun. If you want to switch hands, that's always fun too. So then you're not responsible for what it looks like. If a little bit of the edge of that mountain jumps up into your sky, that's kind of fun. Oh, a little bit of red got in there. That's cool. So this approach is much more intuitive and playful, and you make this kind of moody sky. And then as it hits the edge of the mountains, you just kind of play with this connection. We'll grab a little more blue. Let this be kind of an exciting place where the sky and the tops of these mountains are touching. Create kind of canyons coming off of this edge.
We have another question, Bill.
Yes.
Is there a common theme in your paintings or art?
Is there themes in my art? Mm-hmm. Yeah, in my art, I focus a lot on, I was just struck when I was younger at how humanity is not nice to itself. And I saw all of these examples of suffering and things I read, and I thought, who's making art about the part of life that's difficult and challenging? Who's making art about how hard it really is to live in this world, and yet still instill it with hope, still have a positive aspect to it? Because as I read scripture, I discovered that all these amazing people were thrown in ditches, in pits, in prison, very difficult lives. And I thought, who talks about that tension between the low and the high, and the struggle and the victory? We tend to be so victory-oriented that I thought, and I was never good at making happy art. It just wasn't in my... This is pretty happy for me. This is pretty upbeat. This is a little closer to me. And I found myself trying to embody the tension of both being on the planet and being pulled spiritually to someplace better, someplace higher. And how does the kingdom of God exist now in the midst of such unrest, the virus, politics, culture, so much stuff that's been done for so many hundreds of years? How do we ignore that? So I want to make art that embodies that tension. And we look at the Gospels and we look at how much difficulty there was just the way Jesus tried to say something different. And just being different gets you in trouble. And artists are all different. For us, weird is normal. And we experience this sense of dislocation often from the rest of culture. And I thought, okay, how do I make art about that? So that's been my struggle and my goal, my entire life as an artist, is talking about how difficult and how beautiful life is, and the paradox of those two things together. So, every piece of art is an artist's attempt to try to make sense of the world, to try to make some kind of statement that connects us to what's meaningful. Not every artist, but at least I think the way I make art and the way I encourage others to make art is to find that that in our artwork we're trying to answer the question, why am I here? Where do I come from? Where am I going? How do I wrestle with this craziness? Now, if there's kids out there making a painting like this, you get to have fun because there's no rules. You can just work with energy and brush strokes and have a really fun time with a few colors. Not very many. It's kind of a forest, it's kind of scrubby, it's kind of plants, it's kind of mountains against this really fun yellow pale sky.
Bill, what's one of your first memories as an artist?
I think I was 5 years old. My family was at relatives in Alameda, California. I remember everyone else being in the living room and in the rest of the house talking and laughing. And I was in one of the back rooms, and I had red and blue Play-Doh. And I made a red dog with a blue ear. And it's as vivid in my mind as if I made it yesterday. And it was 5 decades ago. So it's really fun. Actually, sorry, 6. Shaved off 10 years right there. It's been in my life. And then as a kid, I grew up on a small ranch, and we discovered there was clay deposits on the property. And it was this kind of purplish gray clay. It was really cool. But it smelled like sewer because it had rotted vegetation in it. And so our parents would leave us alone completely. And we would spend hours making our tea sets and our plates and bowls out of this purple clay. And so vivid in my mind. And I used to dig tunnels in the hillside on our property. I loved being in the earth. In fact, I dug entire trenches and foxholes and for all of us to play our games in. My whole life, I've always drawn and painted and built things, working with my hands. I was fortunate to grow up with a father who taught me how to use tools. We built our own barns, we did our own work, and yeah, it was really magical.
Bill, what is one of your favorite moments from inside of the classroom?
Wow. Well, anytime in a classroom, when I see someone make that adjustment as they realize they've learned something that changes their life. My goal every semester is to change every student's life. That's what I long for. And when I see that happen, or I get an email or a note back years later and someone said, I finally figured out what you were talking about. It finally makes sense. Thank you for giving that to me when I didn't know what to do with it. Those are those moments that I cherish. Or when I see an art student make a breakthrough creatively. I have a grad student right now working in the human figure in clay, making amazing breakthroughs as an artist. So that kind of really gets me going, gets me very excited. I remember my first day getting on the streetcar in San Francisco to go down and teach my very first class, and being in the classroom and teaching students to draw and to think. I was hooked. I knew it's what I wanted to do the rest of my life, and I'm as excited about teaching now as I was at any other time. I so look forward to every class, and the interactions we're having this fall have been really positive. I'm really pleased with how it's going. Maybe I'll talk a minute about the creative life and God. I really believe that the first 5 words of the Bible give me almost everything I need. In the beginning, God created. And he sets the stage for us living in that created environment where everything reproduces itself. It continues to recreate. And as an artist, we get to participate in this amazing pattern of creative expression, of doing things new, even though paintings have been made for hundreds of years. The paintings that each of you made today are brand new. They're fresh. They just came out of your brush, just landed on the canvas. It's just as powerful as a Renaissance painter 400 years ago, or a Chinese brush painter laying down a character. We get to participate in something that is ancient. It's the oldest thing on the planet is creativity. It's how it all started. In the beginning, God created. And it was formless and it was void. Doesn't mean there wasn't anything there. It just means it was unshaped material. Just like your canvas was unformed. It was blank, it was white, and you brought these things together. What's amazing is the Spirit of God moved over the surface of the deep. Now, I have a friend in England, older man, off the British stage, went to see a Martha Graham dance performance. She's really the founder of modern dance. Went backstage, brought her a rose, gave it to her and said, "Martha, you know something. What do you know?" And she said, "Nigel, dance is the mother of all arts." And he said, "How can you say that?" And she said, "The Spirit moved on the surface of the deep." So it's amazing. The first dance floor was water. And the Spirit was moving on that water, the connecting force between the Word of God and the materials. So creativity is this thing about ideas and words and the Spirit touching materials, and creative process happens. So every time we create, every time we do something creative, whether it's working in a garden, remodeling a room, setting a table, picking out our clothing, it connects to the primal original act of divine creation. And we get to echo that every day of our lives. I get excited about this. And this is what I talk about in my classes, and anyone who will listen. Makes me very excited to be participating in a life that's this rich with the creative power of God. Those are some thoughts on a Friday night. Any other questions for me? Well, I think we're just about ready to wrap up. If there's no more questions, I've really enjoyed being here with you, doing this dance. Although I was sitting, my hands were dancing on the surface of the canvas. I hope you paint many more paintings. I hope you find this invigorating to pull out a canvas, pull some paint out, get your family and friends around, and paint. Find that connection to this divine creative practice. And I say to all the alums, if I had you in class, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wish you were back. Come say hello when we open up again, or send me a note. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Good night.